Everything in this video can be found on the public domain in the full disclaimers down below.
Hey, welcome back to the Danger Zone. It's Ashley. Huge thank you to Peter, Never Lose Hope, Natural Mystic, and Phil. Lots of love and many blessings. Y'all, my eyes still goofy. Anyway, that's another something for another day. Today we're going to talk about the Piers Morgan interview and a couple other little things.
Then moments after she complained about being silenced, she called your boss to silence you.
I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up, frankly. You know, the week before, Harry had been on an open-top bus going through Beverly Hills with his friend James Corden. This is the Prince of Privacy, who was talking about his private life and the lives of his family on an open-top Hollywood star bus. The lack of self-awareness of these two is, frankly, breathtaking. But this idea that Meghan Markle was silenced. Meghan Markle guest-edited British Vogue magazine in the middle of her silence. Meghan Markle made 73 public appearances, many of which she spoke at during her extended period of being silenced. Meghan Markle claimed that she had her passport taken away, so she couldn't fly. Yet miraculously, she took 14 flights, some of them on Elton John's private jet, while she was simultaneously, along with Harry, lecturing us about our carbon footprint. You know, there are so many ridiculous whoppers in this interview that, frankly, in the end, you know, saying I would believe her would be like saying I believe Pinocchio. It's like, why would I?
Do you believe a word out of their mouth? They've been corrected 17 times. Busted in 17 lies.
But on some level, it wasn't really about her or even about him. It was about all of us and our right to say what we think is true in a supposedly
free country. It was about free speech.
So do you believe she had suicidal tendencies? Do you believe that she had a miscarriage? Do you believe they took her identification? Do you believe she was a prisoner at Frogmore? Do you believe she was trapped? Do you believe that she and Harry both are working on censorship? That they want to censor everybody and take our free speech away? That's what this is all about. A bit of it anyway.
Instead, I was basically corralled into a position where I was told you've either got to apologise for effectively disbelieving Meghan Markle's version of events here, or your position is untenable and you have to leave. And my gut was, I was going to be damned if I was going to apologise.
Now, they said they are not moving forward until they get their apology from the royal family. And when I say royal family, I mean they are expecting the Queen and Prince William both to apologize to Meghan in particular.
But that wasn't enough. So apologies don't ever get you anywhere. I don't believe Meghan Markle. Now what I didn't know, and what was a fascinating thing to discover after I left, was that Meghan Markle, between the Monday and Tuesday, had made a personal complaint to the boss of ITV, Dame Carolyn McCall. I didn't know that. I was never told that. I don't know what pressure she was directly putting on, but she did, I know, personally contact her. I also know she had personally contacted, along with Prince Harry, Ofcom, which is a government regulatory body designed to regulate what we put out on news shows. So I was under attack from Miss Markle, both directly to my boss and to the government regulatory body, under attack to basically conform to her version of events. And I had to believe her. And if I didn't, I was a callous racist, and I should be condemned, and ultimately, as it turned out later that day, lose my job. And I think that's a pretty perilous slope, a journalist's job, which is to express skepticism about some of the more outlandish claims, like the secret wedding, like the story about Archie becoming a prince and so on. Even down to small stuff, like she'd never had any interest in the royals, when there are pictures of her draped over Buckingham Palace railings when she was a teenager, and so on. I should be able to be a journalist and question the veracity of those statements. And frankly, I should be allowed, in a democracy that values freedom of speech, I should be allowed to say, I'm sorry, I don't believe you. But I wasn't. I wasn't allowed to do that. It was Meghan's way, and Meghan's narrative, and Meghan's truth. That phrase was actually used by Oprah Winfrey. This is your truth. What does that mean? When do we get to your truth? This is the kind of defence, the kind of thing we would hear liberals attack Donald Trump for reinventing facts, for creating his own truth. But when Meghan Markle does it, the same liberals that attack Donald Trump cheer and applaud and say this is her truth and it must be believed. And if you don't believe it, you're a racist. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not a racist. I just don't believe her.
And no one points out the kind of underlying irony is that here you have two of the most powerful people in the world, in Oprah Winfrey and Meghan Markle, both claiming to be victims. They're oppressed. They have more power than you. They got you fired. but you're oppressing them. The strong pretending to be weak in order to crush people below them. Does anyone notice this dynamic?
Well, it's completely absurd, frankly, and I've written about this regularly for the Daily Mail, about the ludicrous hypocrisy of this couple, who, by the way, contrary to what many Americans have been led to believe, the press coverage of these two, right up to the wedding, was completely over-the-top euphoric. Everyone in Britain was thrilled that finally we were having a non-white bride in the royal family. It hadn't happened. We were all very happy about this. I wrote about how wonderful it was on the wedding day. So this narrative that from the start she was bombarded with horrible, hateful, racist press coverage is another disingenuous load of nonsense, fueled by the Oprah Winfrey Show, where they flashed up a series of headlines. But really where this leaves us is that you've got this concept that somehow Meghan Markle, who married into one of the richest, most privileged families in the world, and within a couple of years has gone back to her home in California, is living in an $11 million mansion, is doing all sorts of enormous deals with Netflix, Spotify, you name it. They're taking the checks, hundreds of millions we read. And how are they getting those, Tucker? They're getting them because they're the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They're getting them off their royal titles. The royal titles bestowed on them by the very institution that in that interview with Oprah Winfrey, they say they can't stand and is suffocating and traps them and so on and so on. But you can't have it both ways. If you really believe that way about the royal family and the monarchy, give up your titles, but they won't do that because it makes them too much money. So now you have these two oppressed people living in a mansion in California, earning hundreds of millions of dollars, in the middle of a pandemic that's killed nearly 3 million people, portraying themselves as the biggest victims in the world. But there are many people who don't have our platform, who are getting wiped out, eradicated, lives destroyed, careers ended, over the most ridiculous things. And it's got to stop, and it will only stop when the mass body of people who don't feel this way, who don't find themselves offended by absolutely everything, when they stand up and go, enough, I'm not going to let this happen. Now, the power of free speech, as Winston Churchill said, some people think free speech is absolutely fine, right to the point they hear an opinion that they don't like, and then it's an outrage. But that's not what free speech is. Free speech is about listening to an outrageous opinion you don't agree with and being able to accept that somebody else doesn't feel like you. That's what free speech is.
I absolutely agree with everything Piers is saying, but they are attacking our free speech. That's part of what they're assigned to do. And now they're announcing their new docuseries on Netflix that was produced by Archwell Productions because nobody else wanted to deal with them. They're desperate to prove to Netflix what they can do. Yet they canceled the Invictus Games for how long? It's 2 years now. It really bugs me because they did cancel it 2 years in a row. And I get there's things going on. But listen, if they can do everything they want to do, surely they can have these Invictus Games continue in one way or another. For some of these people, that's all they had to look forward to in their year. They're making mad money off the backs of these disabled veterans. I wonder if they'll flip anything towards these players. But what about his other foundation? You know, the one we don't even hear about anymore. I always mess up the name.
What happened to Cinnabale? I'll tell you what happened to Cinnabale. Cinnabale doesn't bring in the attention. It doesn't garner the money. Cinnabale's a waste of their time. They're not going to put energy into something that does not profit them in the end.
That's nasty.
That was shared with me by my good buddy Jay. It's almost like they swiftly kicked them to the curb. Just totally forgot about them. You know, when she's talking about how she was so trapped she couldn't go downtown, couldn't go and get a tea or a coffee. Listen, remember when she went to watch Serena play at Wimbledon and she had all those people moved away from her? Had that one guy totally jumped by her goons just because he took a selfie. She just didn't feel like being bothered that day. Yet to hear her say it, she was being held captive, against her will, trapped. She had her security team shut down blocks, you guys, and close down stores to be able to have personal time shopping, strolling the streets of London. She did the same thing in LA. She and Harry shut down a store so that they could shop in private, as well as the Christmas tree booth, so they wouldn't be bothered by common folk. They tell so many stories, they can't even keep up with it. They had their PR people put out some fluff and stuff about the Christmas tree place. Oh, some little kid walked up to Harry thinking he worked there. Bogus. They were there privately. They act like none of this is going to be catching up to them. Just like this.
And now the truth is out. She's always hated Frogmore. She didn't want a thing to do with it, never wanted to be there, was never happy. Yet and still she had the audacity to sink $3 million of taxpayer money into this place where she knew she was unhappy, never liked, never felt at home. She always knew she wasn't going to be there long term, yet continued spending tax money like she earned it. Every dime of that money ought to be accounted for, and it should come straight out of their pockets. And when they put out there they paid that back, I don't believe it. Just another tale. Just like I don't believe anything else she has said, they have said, up to this point. This picture right here shows how miserable she was. They have been caught, totally busted up in their web of lies. Hey, as for their apology that they're demanding from the Queen and Prince William, I'd tell them to go hold their breath till they get it. They're a complete insult to society in general. And that's my opinion, and as long as free speech is a thing, I'm going to be speaking it. And I certainly appreciate the royal family for showing their gratitude towards Piers for speaking his. I sure do appreciate y'all being here. Hope you're having a great day today. I'll see you soon and we'll talk fast. Y'all stay safe and be blessed.